This is Michael Popok for the new Legal AF YouTube channel. In collaboration with the Midas Touch Network, help us build the channel. We're only a month old, but we already have almost 150,000 subscribers. Take a minute, free subscribe, and tell everybody that you want to see more of this kind of content at the intersection of law and politics that I'll be curating on Legal AF YouTube. And speaking of not blowing smoke or sunshine, I got to give you the skinny here on what's happened with the Biden administration's attempts once again to forgive loan forgiveness for over 30 million suffering Americans. I had done a hot take earlier that we just didn't get up in time on the Midas Touch Network. That's how fast this was moving. And as I expected, yesterday, the case in Georgia sounded like good news for student debt relief. But lurking within it, as I noted, was a problem. The case in which certain red states like Missouri and Florida and Arkansas and Georgia and others were challenging the Biden administration's power through its Department of Education to get people out of debt, people who had accumulated more in interest than even the principal amount, people who have been paying these loans for over 20 and 25 years. I mean, talk about hardship. People that could have applied for hardship relief but missed the deadline here and there. Those are the people we're talking about. But all the states lined up that are MAGA and said, no, you can't do that. Now, the case split into two segments. You had Georgia in a Georgia courthouse in Augusta, and you had the rest in Missouri. So the reporting that you may have read yesterday was Biden administration debt relief program gets a rare win in Georgia federal court. That lasted all of 24 hours. Okay. What the ruling was in Georgia yesterday was that the state of Georgia was not able to prove unique damages and injury to itself as a state, didn't have particularized harm, as we call it, to have standing. And standing is your ticket to the courthouse. You have to have injury that's recognized under law, that's unique, that isn't what everybody else suffers, in order to run in and try to vindicate your rights. You have to have rights to vindicate. We call that concept standing. And it is fundamental. If you don't have standing, it's the number one way you'll get your case dismissed. And Georgia tried to claim that their tax rolls were somehow impacted negatively by people's debt being written off, student debt. I think it would run the other way, frankly. And I think the judge there did also, which would mean if they don't have to pay their student loans or they don't have to pay exorbitant interest for the last 20 years, they have more money to buy things, sales tax increase, more money to pay their taxes, not less. And the judge in Georgia said, yeah, I'm going to lift the injunction because he had blocked he had originally blocked the program from Georgia, from Augusta, Georgia, and the Southern District of Georgia, and had blocked the Biden administration temporarily while he got to the bottom of the case. But he let that lapse because he found fundamentally that at least Georgia did not have standing. But that did not end the case. That's why I'm doing this hot take now, to change the headline for you in your mind. Because a Missouri federal judge, a Trumper, as compared to the Georgia federal judge who was appointed by George W. Bush, a Trumper in Missouri, where the rest of the red states ran, including, of course, Missouri, said, yeah, no, this is a overreach by the federal government. The red states are right. They're going to be harmed in some way. They all have standing. And he is asserted and issued his own temporary injunction. So it was very short-lived. It was about 24 hours for the Biden program to be put back on life support and by this Missouri federal Trumper judge. And what it means is 30 million people are going to continue to suffer, as in the waning days of the Biden administration, hopefully continued by the Harris administration, they try to bring debt relief to people in need. Let me again give you the prototypical student, former student, who's being benefited by the program. So you don't think it's people who can afford this. It's people whose interest, because the interest rate has run for so long, the interest is larger than the principal and they can't pay it down. And they've been paying it for 20 years. Or they missed a deadline where they would have qualified for forbearance or forgiveness, but they missed the deadline on a technicality. Now, once Missouri ran, you might be thinking, well, how does Missouri have standing? Popok, you just told us in the beginning, you got to have standing. Well, Missouri is one of those rare states that actually has a loan servicing arm of their state. I think they make loans in the state, like Missouri loans for students. And so they have a loan servicing department that the federal government, I assume, was using. And Missouri was earning fees from trying to collect money. Servicing loans is a euphemism for debt collection. And when debt collection goes bad, it goes into collection. And Missouri was making money off the backs of suffering students and voters in their state. And so they said, well, we're going to lose our tax revenue. We're going to lose our revenue from loan servicing. So we have standing to argue against the loan forgiveness because no loans are forgiven, no servicing, no fees. Missouri is harmed. So Missouri always has standing. And some of these other states, I think, had some similar programs. And of course, they handpicked their judge, as they're very good at. And they ran after having lost in Georgia, they ran immediately into Judge Matt Shelp and his courtroom. And he immediately granted the state's request. And he wrote in his order that the Biden administration is barred from, quote, mass canceling student loans, forgiving any principal or interest, not charging accrued interest, or further implementing any other actions under the debt relief plan, or instructing federal contractors to take such actions, like Missouri. Of course, Missouri's Attorney General, Andrew Bailey, in what's become a real red state, used to be purpley blue, but now a red state, praised Shelp's decision on social media. Huge win for transparency. Yeah, it's a huge loss for human suffering of students crushed under debt, but a huge win for transparency, the rule of law, and for every American who won't have to foot the bill for someone else's Ivy League debt. Stop. We're not talking, they just create these straw men. They just create these, this is what Ronald Reagan used to do. Ronald Reagan created welfare queens who have Cadillacs hanging out of their ghetto apartments or out of their ghetto homes and are using food stamps to gamble and buy jewelry. That was Republican MAGA 1.0. And now you have another version of it. Rule of law, the guy at the top of your ticket has been convicted of 34 felony counts and has been indicted 5 times. Rule of law, my ass. And to say that, I'd like to think a lot of people in Missouri are going to Ivy League schools, but, a lot of this is people going to trade schools, people learning air conditioning repair, becoming beauticians or trying to become beauticians, doing one of those radio program schools, some sort of other trade, learning how to be a carpenter or electrician. It's not Ivy League. Let's be frank, the people that go to Ivy League, unless they go into public service or public interest, they make decent money. They either go into education and universities and make good money, or they go to graduate school and make good money in their professions. They become lawyers or whatever it is. We're not talking about them. This is this false equivalency that they create, the straw person that doesn't exist. We're talking about Missourians here who took out loans for these things that I just said, like trade schools, and are crushed by debt and have been paying off their loans for 25 years. And they just can't get ahead. That's Mr. Attorney General, Mr. Andrew Bailey, who we're talking about. And the voters in Missouri and in Florida and in Georgia and in Arkansas and in North Dakota and in Ohio and in Alabama should wake the F or legal AF up. And they should vote for the party that aligns with their values. We should live in a society of free and fair public education. That's one of the strengths of our society, our American constitutional republic. And we should live in a society where people can get education without having to go bankrupt, can get health care and for major medical and for disasters without having to go bankrupt. That is the country I want to live in. But we'll never live in that country. We'll never live in that country by allowing Trump lawyers and judges to take over and hijack American values and principles. So, as I said, we're not blowing smoke or sunshine here. I'd love the headline to be the headline from yesterday. Federal Judge Hall in Georgia in a rare win for the Biden administration, allows for the cancellation of $30 billion in debt. It lasted a day. And we're going to continue to talk about this here on Legal AF MTN. If you like this kind of analysis, free subscribe and help us get to 200,000. We've got a new, amazing group of contributors that are going to be joining Legal AF MTN on a regular basis from Court Accountability and their investigative research arm, True North. They're going to be on here regularly doing hot takes. We got 3 going up on this weekend, talking about in plain sight how MAGA and the Federalist Society has hijacked the federal judiciary and the Supreme Court and what we can do about it. Court Accountability times Legal AF MTN. You can only get it here. Free subscribe to this channel. We also have a brand new show you can't find anywhere else. It's called Unprecedented, where once a week we'll look at everything at the United States Supreme Court level. It starts on Monday. We already have our first episode up. The court opens on Monday. First 26 cases are already scheduled. We'll tell you all about those cases, the ones that matter, the oral arguments, the cases they didn't take, the ones they're going to take in the future on elections and Donald Trump, and ethics scandals, leaks, and the rest. All here on Legal AF MTN. So until my next hot take and my next podcast and my next contribution on this network, I'm Michael Popok, and I am reporting. In collaboration with the Midas Touch Network, we just launched the Legal AF YouTube channel. Help us build this pro-democracy channel where I'll be curating the top stories at the intersection of law and politics. Go to YouTube now and free subscribe at Legal AF MTN. That's at Legal AF MTN.